I'm recording this with my old phone again. I have the new iPhone, but I don't have a mic attachment, and if I don't use a mic attachment, the plosives, as it's called, are pronounced even when I'm trying to have the phone sort of away from my face, so I have to do it like this for right now until I sell this phone, which I'm planning to do just literally for money purposes. And it's ironic because I had literally just about 3 months to record any video that I really wanted without fear of anyone hearing me, and now that's because both of my there's a lot of things I haven't talked about because I wasn't comfortable recording on that channel. So, but I had nobody to either side of me in this apartment. For about 2 months, and a month before that, I didn't have one of the apartments was vacant. But then for about 2 months, both of them were. And I did that video where I was talking about the designer who, the schizophrenic guy who created, that game, and then I did a review of it. And if I sound a little bit normal, and a little bit more normal, and a little bit less nervous or what have you in that video, that's really partly why, because I don't feel that I mean it's fine, I deal with it, but I was just a little bit more relaxed when I was doing that video. But I knew that was going to happen. I kind of knew that was going to happen, and the whole time I didn't really know how to go about it. I mean, I learned a lot from that experience about stuff I really don't even want to know about how to make a YouTube channel, how to circumvent certain things. But so anyway, I have this new channel now, and I feel much more free to speak. And I also feel like if I start to get subscribers, which is totally up in the air, I really don't know what YouTube will do. I know how to make videos for the algorithm, but I'm not interested in doing that. That's not really the way I operate as a person. So it might be that this channel is completely obscure for a while, I really don't know. And I'm not working for YouTube. I don't make any money doing this, obviously. I'm not super comfortable with the name I chose. It was kind of like one of those things where I typed in, there is another world. And then I was like, wow, no one's taken that name out of however many millions of people have gotten a YouTube account. For some reason, that name hasn't been taken. And then I decided to use it. The only thing I don't really like about it is that it seems a little bit too serious, especially for the tone of my channel. I don't want it to be something... It has nothing to do with poetry, which that line is taken from a poem by Paul Eluard, if that's how to pronounce it. Or it's taken from him. I don't even know if it's a poem. But it's not really about anything except me talking about how I feel about things and stuff like that. So I'm not sure about that name. I might change it, but I don't want to start a new YouTube account. Really, I don't want to start a new one ever again. And as I move forward with this YouTube account, I want to start doing actual videos. And the only problem that presents is that when you have a channel, because I've seen this with other people, they might make a few different types of videos, and then you kind of get used to one thing, like, oh, it's isolated guy and he's talking about his life and how he feels about certain things, and it's mainly audio. But then I'm doing some sort of video game in another video, and it's sort of unexpected or whatever. So for branding purposes, that's not ideal. But to be honest, I don't really know that I care very much. If I did a video that went into the algorithm and it became super popular, then I might start doing more videos like that. I don't really know, but I think I'm going to do like a mixed approach. I mean, really, for the most part, I'm just going to continue doing this kind of video. So anyway, it's been it's really been kind of a loss for me over the past couple months to not be able to do videos. It was difficult for me, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So, and when I, well, I'm not going to talk about that because there's certain things I can't really talk about even at this point. But like I said, I don't have a therapist anymore. I'm probably going to get one, and I might make a video about her just for purposes of like explaining certain things that no one asked about. But people seem to find it interesting when I explain the relationship that we had, which was unconventional. And I don't mean that in any sort of nefarious way, like not that she did anything bad. But just as an example, I don't remember if I said this in the past video, because sometimes I record whole things that I don't upload, but I stopped seeing her about 2.5 months ago, and she's made zero attempt to contact me. And I have a problem with that because of the way she talked about how close she was to me and stuff like that. And it's like, well, if you care about somebody, then presumably you would sort of check up on them. And this is a pattern that I found with women. I don't care if it sounds misogynistic. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. It's my experience, which is that people that I've been involved with, it's always been men who have occasionally sort of checked up on me or whatever, because they know that I'm not really a super fun, happy guy, and that I don't have a good life. It's okay, I guess, but people know that I suffer from depression and isolation. So it's to the extent that it's been anyone, it's always been men. But I would exclude my sister from that, and also my other sister who no longer talks to me. So in a way that doesn't really even count. But I've had ex-girlfriends. They don't care. They don't ever say like, how are you doing, anything like that. It's always been guys that ever would reach out and say, hope everything is okay, or something to that effect. That's been my experience, for whatever reason. So anyway, I was thinking about making a video about this new game that came out, which really can hardly be called a game, called Mixtape. It's and the reason I would even talk about it is because I'm sort of like the target demographic. In a way, I'm not, because the target demographic is actually younger people that are. It's sort of like a target demographic of the show Stranger Things, where you would think like maybe it's the demographic is people that grew up in the 80s and they're nostalgic for the 80s, but really it's for people that are younger and they want to see the 80s as a show, and it's completely sort of Hollywoodified, for lack of a better word, and it's seen through rose-tinted glasses that it doesn't align with reality, But so I would, compare it to that. But what I will say is, so I don't think I'm really going to talk about that, but what I will say is that I almost bought this game because people were talking about how great it is. And then I looked it up on Reddit, and I saw that people were criticizing it for basically not being a game. The one post that I saw, or topic, when you post a thing and then people comment on it, I think it's called a post, and then the comments are comments. So I saw one person said something like, the controls for Mixtape, and then it was a picture of like a PS2 or PlayStation looking controller, and the controller had no buttons on it, which is basically another way of saying it's not really a game, you're not really controlling much of anything. And that isn't even really, it's a valid criticism, but it depends on the type of experience you're talking about. So to the extent that the game is just sort of like a walking simulator type of thing, that's not necessarily bad. But everything else I've heard about the game, like, the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, Jesus, I'm glad I didn't spend even the $17 or $18 or whatever it was on Steam to play this game that frankly doesn't look appealing it doesn't look appealing. Like, aesthetics, from an aesthetic standpoint, the frame rate is fucked. It looks choppy, and you might say, well, why are you criticizing them? Like, maybe they didn't have the budget to make a normal frame rate. And by this time, no one would actually think that. And so the point of me saying that is that that's intentional. They think that's some sort of artsy approach to make the frame rate be like 17 frames a second or whatever it is that they're doing, because it's not even 24 frames a second. It's supposed to be some sort of high art approach, some sort of nouveau things, avant-garde bullshit that doesn't do anything. It doesn't make the experience any better, and the whole game is fraught with that type of thing. And it's getting very good reviews. I think some outlet, I don't remember which one, I want to say PGN, but I don't even know if that makes sense. PGN. Yeah, I don't know, but somebody gave it like a 10 out of 10 or something, and the outlet that reviewed it hardly ever gives any game a 10 out of 10. So, it's sort of astroturfed type of thing. But I will say that, because I've been watching videos about it, and some guy named Andy Mayon TV? How do you pronounce that? ENDYMION TV. Okay. He did an excellent video on it and why it's bad, I don't really like being told what's good and what's bad, and then it's critics have always been kind of iffy, Sometimes they have legitimate criticisms and compliments for whatever they're talking about, and they're a legitimate critic, but a lot of times it's just all money and it's all bullshit, and that's what people are tired of. Like I said in my first video, which I don't think was that great, but anyway, it was an introduction. And really nobody saw it, so it didn't really matter. But except for the 2 people that subscribed. But yeah, I really do think we've hit a saturation point with everything being corporate and mainstream. And a lot of people that are cynical would be like, dude, you don't get it. It never ends. It's never going to hit a saturation point. People just gobble up slop, They're just slop eaters. Everyone's sheep. And I don't really think that that's true. I think people are tired. They have corporate media fatigue or something, People are being told what to like, and then it's like, Sabrina Carpenter is an excellent example. It's like people are being told to like this person, and some people accept it, and other people are like, no thank you. I don't know what this is. It doesn't resonate with me, and I'll pass. It's so fucking hot in here, and I don't know what's going on. I don't even get hot that easily, and it makes me wonder what the summer's going to be like. I don't know, are they turning on the heat in this fucking apartment? And it's 60 degrees outside. I'm trying to figure out some sort of balance between rambling, which is my tendency, I don't want it to be, boring. And somebody told me that they play my videos on 2x speed, which you can play it at whatever the fuck you want to play it at, but to me, I only do that on TikTok when I'm literally trying to get past it's a news story and they have an introduction, but I'm just trying to see what they're talking about and stuff like that. So if somebody did that for part of my video and then I don't know, it just seems weird to me to listen to something at literally 2x speed, because I don't think that that's really listenable. But I'm trying to find a balance between, just getting straight to the point, which maybe I should just do in general. My cat is fascinated whenever I turn on the air conditioner. It's just really interesting to her. I don't know if it's a smell I don't know what it is, but she's always like really entranced by it. So anyway, I wanted to talk about something that I'm going to do a video about AI, and I don't know exactly when, or, I've done a couple videos about it, and the degree to which it's really a fake thing. I get irritated when people say, well, they said that about the internet, and it's like, you're comparing two completely different things. AI is this amorphous thing that's not clearly defined, and it's completely corporate driven, which is in contrast to the internet, where a lot of it was organic. And the internet was very tangible in contrast, which is basically like, certain people at the time were saying it was kind of a fad or whatever, but basically everyone knew that it was this whole new infrastructure and that it was going to lead to a new way of communicating, whether or not everyone took part in it, And certainly I live around in an area where there are a lot of old people, and they seem to take pride in being a Luddite and saying, oh, well, I don't know about all that email stuff, and it's like, well, you're talking about email. That goes back a long fucking time ago now. So, like, and by the way, I'm not angry about it. Like, if you want to live that way, that's do what you want to do. But it's like, this is not high technology. Email has been around for 30 years. Really, it's been around for longer. So if you want to say that you don't deal with that newfangled stuff, it's like, it's not new, it's old. Email is old. The internet is old at this point. So you just don't want to take part in it, and you don't want any part in it, and that's okay. But don't say that it's like some new technology. And by the way, I don't want to say that like Mixtape the game is like, if you like it, that's fine. Play whatever you want to play in as a pastime, as a recreation. I don't play games that I don't want to play. People kept saying Expedition 33 was like the second coming of Jesus, and I tried to play it. I played it for hours, and I just thought, first of all, the main character looks like whatever that guy's name is that I can't remember off the top of my head, but he played Batman, and he played the main guy in... Okay, Robert Pattinson. I'm pretty sure that's his name. I didn't even look it up, but it took me a couple seconds to remember his name, because he's not someone I think about. But the main character in this game looked so much like him, yet being not him, that it was off-putting to me. But that wasn't really the problem. I just thought it was kind of a boring game, and I didn't really like the premise. It seemed too far-flung to me. It didn't resonate with me. I just didn't like it, and... if people are allowed to like whatever the fuck they want to like. And by the way, like, when I was looking on Reddit, you were seeing people continually defending Mixtape, which to me, there's your red flag. If people's opinions on Reddit are that something is great and it usually seems kind of mainstream or corporate driven, well, you are clued in to something, It doesn't mean it's the opposite of whatever they say, but it's something like close to that, I guess. So yeah, recently, I think I might title this "The Kids Are All Right," after the Who song, or I might name it "All the Kids Are Right," which was itself a reference to the Who song, was song by Local H. But anyway, because and there was another video that I wanted to do where I was talking about how I feel more aligned with Gen Z than I do with the generation that I'm technically a part of, which is Gen X. Because there's a lot of people that feel very disenfranchised, and they feel like they're coming up against old people, and they are, That's what's happening. So what happened was that there have been four high-profile commencement addresses, because that's what's happening right now. Kids are graduating from college, which is something I never did because I didn't know. I was completely rudderless when I was in college. I went to college twice at two different places, and I never majored in anything. And when people would ask me what my major was, it was sort of like a big shrug, I didn't really even know what to say. And in retrospect, I didn't really get very good advice from anyone. I didn't really get a lot of, well, here's what you do. I got advice, but it was basically like the extent of the advice was basically finish college. And I guess, if I had done that, yeah, I probably would be in a better position. To just have a degree instead of nothing, which is, and I'm living this life as if I were like 20 years old or something, and just going from, low-level job to low-level job, and it's not really a good situation, but at the same time, on some level, that's what I chose, so I accept it. But yeah, so it was very gratifying to see. It was really quite satisfying to see people like, so it's four people. Jonathan Haidt, who is part of the mainstream. He's part of, I don't know how to say it, but he's part of the whole, he's part of the academic mainstream while attempting to appear opposing to it by saying things that are vaguely anti-woke, if you want to use that word. And it's fine. Like, he wrote a book called The Coddled Generation or something like that. I'm never going to read that book. I don't need to know why he thinks people are soft now. It's basically kind of true, but I don't need to read a book about it. And his take on why he's not soft, even though he grew up most likely as, in the top 1% of privilege of the world, even probably of the United States, the top 1% of privilege, and yet he's criticizing a generation for being too soft. And I think partly he's criticizing the parents. But so he got booed, but he didn't get booed off stage. It wasn't as big, So, and in his case, I think it was partly because he was critical of Gen Z and a certain contingent of the NYU. He was doing a commencement speech at NYU, and apparently in the Bronx, which is very confusing to me. NYU is not in the Bronx. I've been to NYU before, not like attending it, but it's downtown in New York City. I don't remember exactly where, but I don't know why he's doing the commencement speech in the Bronx. I guess they need to do it like in a high capacity venue or something. But so he got booed, and even though I probably disagree with the people who booed him, at the same time I sort of sympathize with what they're talking about, which is this new generation is being constantly criticized as being lazy or soft by older people like him. Well, he's Gen X, Jonathan Haidt. I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure he's from Gen X. And it just feels disingenuous. It feels like it feels too easy, It's like it's a little more complicated than that, and the people that raise these people and the way that society has become it has so much to do with that. So then the other example, which is, I'm not going to take too long on this, but because there are two main examples of what I'm talking about, and if you're listening to this, you might already know what I'm talking about. But some Indian the president, I think, of Cal Arts, which I guess is like the California Institution of the Arts. I don't really know. It's a college, though, in California. And he got booed massively to the point where he really couldn't present his speech. And it's because he's corrupt, and he's compromised the position of every one of those students. I didn't look into it too closely because I just don't care enough. But here's the thing. you're getting this situation where, like, let's just take, for example, Trump. He used to brag about how many people used to attend his rallies. Well, he doesn't have rallies anymore because he's not running. But he's not going to be bragging about that anymore. And if he does, we'll know that he's lying, because so many people are opposed to what he's been doing. And he's done the opposite in certain cases of what he campaigned to do. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't really want him to get impeached, because I don't really know if that's going to help anything. But I don't really want him to be president anymore. But the point in my saying that is, like, you're getting people in powerful positions who are used to having their asses kissed. And they're in a situation where they're actually in front of an audience of the people that they're directly affecting. And they're getting booed off the stage and saying, "No, you misunderstood. We actually hate you. Just so you understand. We don't like you. We wish you weren't here. Please go away." And I'm talking about the president of CalArts. And I was even looking at the comment section of a couple of the videos where he was getting booed. And someone basically wrote, "Please go home," something to that effect. And you can say that's racist or something, like it was about... I don't even know if it was like "go home to India." I don't know. I just know that it was pretty much uniformly negative. And the whole point is, you get these people, like I said, that they're in this bubble where they're in a high position, they're rich, they think they're really cool, like Elon Musk. He thinks he's based and cool and stuff like that. And meanwhile, there's a whole contingent of people that if he had to do a speech in front of people who he's affecting, Elon Musk is not a great example, but just in this case of, like, the president of CalArts, it's like he's face to face with it in a way that he normally wouldn't have to be. And like I said, it's very gratifying to see. So the two main examples are related to AI, because he wasn't related to AI. People are just angry at the president of CalArts because apparently he's corrupt, and what else is new, especially when you're talking about when an Indian is hired. And you can say that's racist, but this is a pattern, that's happening. There's going to be just some dead space in there because the low power, notification came up, and whenever that happens, it fucks up when I'm trying to record a video. Anyway, so the main example, so there's two people. Eric Schmidt, who is eminently unlikable. I'm not going to say he's evil. I don't like doing that. I tried to read a book on AI. Well, I did read the book, and he was one of the co-authors. And all it was AI hype and how great it is. It was recommended by some sort of anti-media type of person, and she was saying that if you want to know what these billionaires have in store, read this book. And I read it and I thought, okay, that was really boring and I didn't really get anything from it. I really don't remember very much from the book, and even though I don't have the greatest memory, it's partly just because it was a very boring book. I don't really know which parts were written by Eric Schmidt. And Henry Kissinger, when he was 93 or whatever he was, he knows about AI. So anyway, it had 3 co-authors, and it wasn't clear reading the book who the author was when you were reading it. So Eric Schmidt is the former CEO of Google, and like I said, he's eminently unlikable. He's of the same kind of personality as Mark Zuckerberg, where he seems somewhat robotic. He seems like a person who doesn't relate to people, and he seems very as if he has a very elevated opinion of himself. And the interesting psychological thing is there are some people who are repelled by that. I'm one of those people. To see a person who very apparently has an elevated opinion of himself and thinks that he's better than other people, to me that's a turnoff. But a lot of people sort of have this opinion of like, well, he thinks it, so I guess he's really important and he must be a very elevated person. So anyway, he was doing a commencement speech at the University of Arizona, yeah, and which, if I'm understanding correctly, is a very tech-centric university. I don't even know really what they do. I don't really know why people go to college, to be honest, these days, because like so much is online. I understand the experience of it, and I'm not saying even that it's like useless. It's just the point that like in the year 2026, when we've been past COVID now, and they were telling people that in order to be a good American, you have to put your kids in Zoom classes, and it really negatively affected a lot of people. But if so many people derive the same level of learning from just doing an online class, I don't really know why so many people are still going to college and going into debt to do that. It's a little bit confusing to me, but I guess the networking part is maybe really what you're doing that for. So he's giving this speech about how AI is basically unavoidable, or the whole speech wasn't about AI, but part of it, he started talking about AI, and the students there, of which there were many, started loudly booing, drowning out his voice. And he said, this is the one that I wrote down. He said, "The question is not whether AI will shape the world. It will. The question is whether you will help shape artificial intelligence." That's an extremely arrogant and self-serving thing to say. It's arrogant in his confidence of it. Again, like I said, we don't even really know what AI is. It's really a marketing term at this point. To me, all AI is basically, I use ChatGPT and I do use it a lot. I use it because Google sucks. I mean, that's basically a big part of the reason why I ever use ChatGPT or Claude or Grok, because Google has failed people as a search engine. So, and it's self-serving because, well, what is he invested in? You know, I know he's the former CEO. I don't know what he's into now, but like he's a very rich. I think he's a billionaire. What is he invested in? He's invested in tech companies. So, I remember what I was going to say. I was going to say AI is very amorphous, and it's not really clear even what it is. So to say that AI is going to shape the world is a little bit premature. I don't think it's really even wrong, but he's being self-serving by saying that, because it would be like being, I don't know. Well, let's just say you invented the wheel, and then you said, like it or not, the wheel is going to change the world whether you're on board or not. That would make sense. He's saying it about this amorphous, ill-defined technology. Like I said, to me, ChatGPT is a chatbot, and it's where I make fake thumbnails or just fake images for my own amusement. It has no real utility, which is in stark contrast to the internet, which has real utility. He has a shitload of money invested in AI, so he's going to come across as if that's the way he's going to present it, as if it's going to shape the world and it's going to change the world whether you like it or not. Get on board, kids. You have no choice. You have the choice of either failing because you don't want to adopt AI, or you have the choice of getting on board. And he very rightly got booed for that. And, you could tell that he was embarrassed. And this is a really good case of a person who's had his ass kissed for so long. And there are so many of these types of people around that are worshipped by the people that, not everyone, but so many people that work under them are kissing their ass, and making them feel like some sort of king. And meanwhile, okay, that's fine that you have that contingent, but there's a whole other contingent of people that you're not seeing. And he's seeing that these people that he wants them to think that he's cool because he's a billionaire. Don't you get it? Don't you get how important he is? He used to be the CEO of Google. It doesn't get much more cool than that. And he has all this money. He probably has yachts and stuff. Maybe he has a castle, you know. He's not just the, awkward nerd that he was when he was in high school, just coding behind a computer. And by the way, I'm not even against that. I'm just saying probably like something along the lines of his own inner narrative, whatever it is. So like he's thinking all these people will like look up to him, these 22-year-olds that are graduating, and they're not happy. They're booing him. It's the opposite of what he was probably expecting. And it's, I don't want anyone to be hurt or sad, but when you get someone like who's really super arrogant and full of himself, and you see that he's practically booed off the stage, it's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, and this feels very redolent of to me, the French Revolution and what it would have been like, because people are basically, he's saying AI is going to shape the world whether you like it or not, so you can either choose to join us or be an enemy or something, or lose or whatever. And people are basically saying, fuck you, no thank you. And he's not normally exposed to that opposition. And now he is. And the other example is this functionary, this government functionary, corporate managerial class, whatever, Gloria Caulfield, vice president of Tavistock Development Company, whatever the fuck useless non-value added company that is. And I did look it up. It's it's like a subsidiary of this sort of like private equity firm, which has a very dubious reputation. And the former CEO or something of the private equity firm that owns the company that she works for, I think he went to jail, and then like Trump pardoned him, and he's roughly 176 years old, and whatever. Do you really need to be in jail when you're 95? But anyway, like I don't give a shit about people going to jail. I care about like people not being able to harm people anymore, So this is another person. She's a girl boss. She's used to having her ass kissed. She's part of the whole, HR revolution. She probably was in HR at some point. I don't know. I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm just talking about my impression of this person, which is that she's part of the upper echelon of the managerial class who are completely separated from the working class, and she's happy about that. Maybe she came from a poor family, and this is her way of feeling like she really made it or whatever. So she's giving a speech to the University of Florida. I think it was in Florida, and a lot of these kids were apparently art students, or adjacent to in the arts, and so she's saying things like, this is a quote, "The rise of artificial intelligence is the next industrial revolution." I don't know, can someone gag me? Like, I feel like a gag reflex hearing that. And so apparently did the audience, because they immediately booed. And she's looking around like, what did I say? What's wrong? So my point in saying that is this is another case where people are negatively affecting people's lives, and they're apparently oblivious to it, So she's having a rude awakening there because she's getting people's actual reaction. And not only is it people, because it's not boomers. As I've said, boomers seem to really be into it, because they're not affected. So they think AI is absolutely droll and it's whimsical. That's their take on AI, because they're not being, first of all, they don't understand it. They don't understand the implications. But second of all, they're retired or whatever they are. They don't have to be negatively impacted by it. So they're into it. She's getting the opinion of the people that really are, their opinions are the most sort of salient and relevant among the population. So it's not kids. It's not the 14-year-old girl who's, I don't know, using, I don't know what, it's not, teenagers who are using AI to do homework or something. It's 22-year-olds who are fully grown adults, and they're going to have to go into they're going to have to work, or unless they're, one of Jonathan Haidt's kids who are too coddled or whatever. I think part of my point is like it's offensive to me when you have a person saying that people are coddled, and meanwhile it's like, okay, yeah, that's a fair point, but are their lives any better? Because they're probably not. Your life was probably a lot more fun. You got to go outside. People weren't telling you to worry all the time. You didn't have people having phones that could, record you slipping in while you're trying to walk to your seat, or tripping, or whatever all this stuff is that kids are totally freaked out about, because teenagers are, some of the most self-conscious people in the world, and they have cameras trained on them all the time. You didn't have to grow up with that. So yeah, they may be coddled in one way. In another way, their lives are very much harder than whatever you had to grow up with. And he may even acknowledge that. I don't know. In his book, which I don't have any interest in reading. So anyway, this woman, this genius, Gloria Caulfield, she's a genius because she's the vice president of Tavistock Development Company. I mean, goodness gracious, you can't get any more respectable than that, can you? I mean, wow. I'm impressed. That's all I can say. And I'm sorry to sound callous. I don't hate her. I'm tired of all these types of people. And they have influence, and that's part of the problem. So that she gave this completely corporate, manufactured bullshit, talking point. So the rise of artificial intelligence is the next industrial revolution. I don't know who told you to say that, Bill Gates? Because of his investments? Okay, fine, whatever. And then almost right after that, I think she says, only a few years ago, AI was not a factor in our lives. And then that's the most amusing part, because right before that, now the audience is completely engaged, because right after she says this thing about there once was a time long ago, in the dinosaur times, because those times won't ever come back. That was a long time ago registered trademark. AI was not a factor in our lives. And then these kids, they're fully grown adults, but they're basically kids. They're 22, start cheering after she says that. And they're all like, yeah, please, let's bring back that time before we had people like you telling us what to think and telling us how useless our skills were going to be because of AI. So this is a litmus test for how people actually feel. And especially with Eric Schmidt and, I almost said Holden, Gloria Caulfield, this is a litmus test for how people actually feel. And it's interesting to see the media report on it, because they're kind of like doing this thing where like, okay, we're going to report on it, but we're going to kind of like not say anything, because we know who our corporate overlords are, and we know how who writes our paychecks and stuff, and that's tech companies and, corporate interests that are aligned with saying that AI is the next biggest thing, Anyway, I'm sorry if this video was a little bit too long. I don't really like them to be longer than half an hour. And then I tend to bloviate and, just ramble on, and I don't really, I don't want to the extent that I'm producing these for consumption. I want them to be somewhat engaging, even if apparently I have an annoying voice and all that stuff. So yeah, to me, these kids with their reactions to these corporate people spouting corporate talking points is life-affirming to me. And you don't see it, even really on the internet so much. I made a video about this, but Yahoo News is news for boomers. And you might be like, well, what else is new? Like, boomers aren't going to be going like onto 4chan or what, and by the way, I don't use 4chan, but like, they're not going to be going into the deepest recesses of the internet. They're going to go to like what's presented to them. And it's like, okay, but that affects other things too, So anyway, yeah, not a great year to be talking about how wonderful AI is, even though apparently it's going to destroy your future livelihood and also be making commencement speeches. So much for that. I don't think it's going to hit their pocketbooks so much, like very hard. So I'm not sure how bad I feel for them. I mean, I don't want anyone to feel like bad, but these people have been in their mind winning for so long. So to see the reality put in their face is very gratifying. Anyway, thanks for listening.